Howdy, y'all. This is Learn to Do with Peter on April 26, 2024. And let me dive into it. First, I'll change my screen resolution. So the good news, I don't know, the news, some good news. My computer kind of crashed overnight, so I got to reboot it this morning, and everything's like fresh and clean and stuff. The other good news is I got up early enough that I could do all of that and still make the call. Hey, Claire, is it okay if we take your question?
Absolutely.
Claire had a question for us. What are some options for gathering a series of images I've created from Midjourney and adding captions to each? I'm going to put a comma right there for maybe for some reason. So I like this question a lot. I think I've done similar things, or I haven't, and I really want to, even better. But I'm not quite sure what you mean, Claire. So um, what's the gathering part? And what do you mean by adding captions? Like burned in or like in a slideshow or?
So where I started was I wanted to post into Mighty Networks a number of images and with a caption under each image. And it was the idea was that it sort of was loosely, I don't know, like a story kind of.
Yep.
And I managed to do a really poor job of it. And I think part of that is because Mighty Networks is probably not the ideal
Yes.
place to even try and do that. I still have not figured out how to post and edit and all of that in there. I'm horrible at it. But I don't know what would be a better place. And I don't know if I want the caption to be like I think probably, yeah, the caption burned into the picture, if that makes sense,
Yeah, that
like it's
makes sense.
part of the picture,
Yep.
rather than just it's a separate, I don't know, additional thing.
Yep.
But I
Makes a
don't
lot
know
of
where to
sense.
go.
Let me try to show you. I'm gonna do this off screen because I have to dig through my mail, but let me show you my pretty pictures with Pete emails. Um, or um, let's see. Yeah, here's a good one. And I think it's not too bad. All my folder names and stuff. I have a little bit of PTSD from Batman, I have to tell you. Blurring Batman in the video. I really enjoyed I really enjoyed getting to learn DaVinci Resolve, but it also took some definite gnashing of teeth and frustration. So, so for what it's worth, Clara, maybe folks know, maybe you don't. I have a subscription product for an incredible low price at this point. I'm going to raise the price, but anyway, I send out Midjourney images 3 times a week to people who can stand that many images, and uh, and I do have it's kind of a story. So each one there's a little like almost like an artist statement or something like that. This is my thoughts about this, some quick thoughts about this image. And then underneath it, I've got a caption, and this is kind of a museum description. So, my reaction, image, caption. I'm starting to do, I used to do 9 images, and now I'm doing like related images. These are 2 related ones. So then they're each separated with a horizontal bar like that. So this is a lot what you're talking about, and I have to say the experience of creating these emails, I create these in Gumroad. It's actually a lot very similar to Substack or Ghost. My newsletter, the newsletter I write, comes out in Ghost. So Ghost and Gumroad and Substack, they each have these really nice message. You know, it's like it's like the article interface for Midjourney. Sorry, Mighty Networks. Really, it's really hard for me to say Mighty Networks because I like Midjourney better than Mighty Networks. So whenever I try to say it comes out Midjourney. Anyway, so like theoretically, let's try to do it real quick here, and maybe I can also demo Ghost and maybe Gumroad and Substack. We'll see, but let's grab some images here. I have to turn on my external drive. Okay. This is actually that same set. So this is a reasonable thing to kind of start with. So theoretically, I wonder, let me, maybe I want to do a different set of images, just whatever random stuff is in my downloads. Maybe starting with this one. Like theoretically, you can kind of drag and drop these over here. I've had success doing that. This is Phoenix Slides, and you can usually drag and drop from Phoenix Slides, but sometimes you want to drag and drop from Finder. So I did real quick in Phoenix Slides, I did Command R, which says it means reveal in Finder. So here's that image. Let me see if I can drag and drop it over here. If Mighty Networks isn't kind of feeling receptive, the drag and drop doesn't work as well as it should. Let me try it one more time. Yeah, so there you go. And then I could add I guess I can add text under, and that's kind of a caption, or maybe it's kind of the header for the next one. I think I could also add a horizontal rule. I don't know what picture this is. Same one. Oh my gosh, these are all the same, aren't they? Okay, that's a good one. So for Mighty Networks, you need to have set up, let me put back that horizontal rule. You need to have set this up so that it's like ready for the image or something, but not this is the image picker, and I don't want to do that because I'm kind of set up right to drag and drop here. So maybe this will work. Yeah. I'm imagining pretty soon I'm going to click send on this or something like that. And yeah, okay, this is not shrunk yet. I'm actually going to post this and probably delete it afterwards, but probably I won't spam everybody saying you need to read this post. So let's kind of look at it. Even though I didn't get
think I look cute, may delete later.
What's that?
Oh, it's I think I look cute, may delete later.
Oh,
It's
yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So one of the problems with Mighty Networks articles is that it doesn't do a good job of showing the rest of the pictures, right? So it's super frustrating to me to set up a nice story and then like people are gonna go, oh yeah, that's a cute boat picture. Looks cute, Pete. But then they're never gonna read the more thing, right? So I find that kind of frustrating. So let me show you Ghost maybe. And let me start this off screen. In case
Claire, do
there's
you
stuff
want these to show like as a slideshow, or do you want them to be in a big article where people scroll from one to the next?
That's a good question, RJ.
Um,
And
I don't even really have a firm idea in mind, but I was thinking scrolling just because I wasn't even sure where this would end up. So, oh yeah, cute, may delete later. Exactly.
so this is kind of the same looking interface. This is Ghost, which is kind of a blogging email newsletter thing. And it always just works. The thing where I was fumbling around trying to make like get it to work. Let me turn this into a thing where I can see thumbnails at least. So I'm dragging and dropping and having a lot of fun, and it just works. For each of these, I can add a caption, like a real caption.
Can Claire use something like this with Mighty Networks, or?
The short answer is no. But it's really frustrating being a creator, and I don't want to seem ungrateful. I am super grateful that AI Salon exists. And I even like a lot of things about Mighty Networks. The events are awesome. It's nice that we can post a little bit. I can never find show and tell, but it's show and tell kind of works. You get to see one picture of, or if somebody wants to post more than one picture, then it's separate posts, and then you got too many posts, and yada yada. It's nice, and I really super appreciate that it exists. But it is frustrating when I could be the things that I'm sending out, pretty pictures with Pete, I could be posting some of that kind of stuff to Mighty Networks, but I don't because it doesn't fit the format. So let me find that ghost thing again.
So wait. So most likely, Claire, right now, to get going, would probably just need to put some captions on some pictures or below some pictures and easily load them into an article, probably on Mighty Networks. Is that probably one first option for
Yeah,
her?
yeah, and let's write that down. So these were the things that she was. Let me put a 3 here. I'm gonna put a question mark after this one. And I guess I'll do this. So one option is post article to Mighty Networks, and that's fine. The problems with it, hard to see images past top of full or first image.
And if she wanted to, she could type the caption first and then load the picture, or load the picture and then type the caption for the picture above
Yeah,
manually.
yeah. So even something simple like so Ghost, again, it's a combination blog, email, newsletter thing. So it is super nice that you can have. Let me show like a finished a finished newsletter. So where I'm kind of going with this is I wonder, I I wonder, I can totally imagine taking something like Pretty Pictures with Pete, which just comes in Gumroad and email, or a Ghost, taking that post and then making like a little thumbnail set. Let me show you the thumbnails actually. In one of the things I do is I do like 9 sets of images, and then I do some bonus images at the bottom. So I can totally imagine, not for every post, but for me or for Claire or somebody who wants to tell a story, here's a story of Helen, or whatever. I can totally imagine like doing it in a better format, something like Ghost, or maybe not Gumroad, because Gumroad is for selling things, but actually maybe that's exactly what Claire should be doing. Maybe she should be selling her stories. Anyway, set it up in something better, either for free or for pay. And then making something like this out of the story, and posting this as the one image that you get in Mighty Networks, and then you click on it and you get to the whole post on our blog, basically, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Within Mighty Networks, do you know if there's any sort of like plugins or API access where you could create something like we're describing and then just put it right into the story?
It's a good question. I guess I need to make a question section. I think it's a great idea, Scott. Thanks. Just the output doesn't fit. If you want and I don't know, it kind of makes sense that it doesn't. So here's one of the newsletters. I made it small to look more like a phone, kind of, and also to make the images not so high. Another thing is Ghost, for instance. I think Gumroad too, you can put little GIFs, or these are actually MP4s, but they work. They don't work in an email, but they work on the web great. And I didn't show it really in the editor, but for every image or video, you can have a little caption. This can be a longer caption or a shorter caption, and then you can interleave that with other formatting stuff, which I think you could do in Mighty Networks. But there's just it's not the same thing, right? People are used to like looking at Mighty Networks, and they're going to look at the first. They're going to look at the first image. They're not going to click below the fold. They're not going to click more. So if you want a couple images, you can do that by posting a couple of separate articles, or a couple separate quick posts, but there's no long format. So I don't know. Short answer, Claire, I think is either hack it with an article, which is super unsatisfying, or maybe we should have a thing where you post from your, post a short thing like the thumbnail thing I got, and it goes off to your blog post, and that's where you get to tell the story.
Okay, thank you.
A quick side connection too, Claire, and whoever else is interested.
Before are you changing topics? Can I just ask one more related question?
I think I'm not changing topics.
Oh, okay,
So
sorry.
hang on to the question for just a sec. I've been doing that newsletter for like almost 2 years, maybe 2 years at this point, and I've got the format down to like a science kind of. And I said, it would be fun to do an art journal, the same thing, a shared art journal. And so I kind of wrote up. I'm scrolling through this super fast, but you get the idea. Take that same newsletter idea and turn it into posts. Claire, I would love to do something like this with you, a shared journal. And I know how all the tech works and stuff like that. So let's do
Oh,
it.
cool. Let's do it.
So, okay, RJ, question.
Well, I was just wondering what other platforms are out there that people typically post picture slideshows, like social media platforms. Like, does Instagram support slideshows, or,
Good question.
and then she could just point them to that site, or?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question, RJ. And I've lost my HackMD, so let me find it again. I have thought about this a lot. Not that I've gotten comprehensive. Well, I've thought about it a lot. So I don't know all the answers, but I know a lot of the answers to that. Questions. So other platforms for longer form. Let me write in here real quick. That shared art journal idea I had, I think it's called Earth, Moon, Stars, Space. Let me copy this in here. So Claire and I, and whoever else is interested, remembers that that idea is kind of just waiting to get off the ground. Other platforms for longest form posts, stories, slideshows, etc. So real quick offhand, there's the video platforms, TikTok, long live TikTok, TikTok, Insta, Reels, whatever. You could, so a different thing that we didn't talk about, and maybe it would be fun to talk about it, is having a video slideshow. MP4 is probably of, and the MP4s, they sound heavyweight, but they are not necessarily heavyweight. The little short looping videos that I have in that newsletter, they're actually, I mean, the person who contributes those actually thinks of them as GIFs, or maybe thinks of them as GIFs. But they're actually, they come to me as MP4s, and they're 3 seconds long, and they're 250K, 250 something. K doesn't sound right, but they're actually, maybe it is. They're actually pretty small. So so you can do. And maybe I'm getting too much into the weeds. MP4 to me usually means it's like a 10-minute video or an hour and a half video or something like that, but they can be really small too. And they kind of replace GIFs. GIFs work, but like if it's actually really a GIF, it's got a color limitation, things like that, MP4 stuff. Anyway, you could totally make a slideshow. You could burn in the the caption or whatever. That would be fine. And
On that topic, can I just say that Mighty Networks got to be careful, because it will actually convert some of these file formats to different formats and store it in a different format, which is bigger. Like,
yeah,
it takes the GIF files and it actually converts it to another format, which ends up being a larger file, unfortunately. I don't know
yeah,
whether it does that to videos, MP4s, but I know it does it for GIFs.
yeah. I think it might do WebP, which that's a whole interesting conversation there too. So another good one is Flickr. I don't know that if Flickr is a pretty good place to post. Yeah, slideshows is a reasonable way to think of it. I was a early user of Flickr way back in the day, and it is but a shadow of its former glory. So for one thing, there's not a lot of traffic there, which is maybe okay. So blog, newsletters, email, Ghost, Substack, Gumroad. This would probably be my preferred for the thing that you're talking about, Claire. This is, I think, the right solution. then there's, there's SmugMug might kind of work. Yeah, actually SmugMug is a good choice for, SmugMug is a good choice for, well, another, not an ad, I swear, thing. So this, I haven't been maintaining this, but this was a really early way for me to share galleries. And this works well for sharing gallery stuff and for people to be able to like see a hierarchy of galleries kind of, and look through. So if you want to tell somebody, hey, I've got 1,000 images or 10,000 images or something like that, and I wish you could see the best ones of it. This was kind of the best solution that I could come up with. And this is SmugMug underneath. SmugMug is made for like photographers, especially like wedding photographers or something like that, where they do have that thing, oh, I've got 1,000 pictures from your wedding and 1,000 pictures from your friend's wedding, and I want you to be able to look at all of them. It's a hard thing to do, it turns out. But this is a pretty good way to let people, like pick through and kind of get the idea of, and be able to look at as many photos as you want. Another great, well, I wish it were great option, Apple Photos and Google Photos. I'm going to start looking at these for distributing pretty pictures with Pete, actually. So Apple Photos is actually really clunky. There's got some weird limitation where it's got some, neither of these is as good as it should be. They're pretty good for sharing with your family. They're not very good for sharing with the public. Danielle?
Hey, sorry, I was listening in while I was driving. I just wanted to say about your pretty pictures with Pete that that you send out is
Mhm.
I love it so much, Pete. I love it so much. Honestly, like it when I'm checking all my stressful emails and then when I get that one, it's just like a little like break from all the crap, all the stressful things I have to look at. And so I just wanted to share that. I truly love it. And I don't know how to tell you because you can't comment on anything. But I just wanted to share that with you. I really
Thank you,
really
Danielle.
love it. So I just wanted to share that. And thank you for sharing that link, Scott.
I so appreciate it, Danielle. I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you. That's kind of what keeps me going, because I know a few people really love it. One of the other subscribers who's kind of in this, he had the same reaction as you. He said, Pete, what I wish we could do with Pretty Pictures is have a way to say, this is my favorite of this today's set. What are your favorites? And so so I'm kind of thinking about how to do that. So that reminds me, another great solution is a discourse forum, actually. There's a good chance I'll set up a discourse forum for the descendant of Pretty Pictures with Pete. So another one might be Discord, kind of. The long story short is, like, all of these are kind of okay and none of them is great. And kind of actually, maybe thanks Danielle, kind of this one actually works for people. And you can set it up so it's on the web and in emails, and Ghost and Substack and Gumroad. Each of these editors is a lot better than the Midjourney one. Or sorry, not the Mighty Networks. It's a lot better than the Mighty Networks one. And it's got more capability too, with the the captions that look like captions and stuff like that. So the Pixelthesia thing, this, by the way, is an example of burned in captions. this actually is a SmugMug feature. It's like really cool. So it's a watermark here, and it's not meant to be a caption. But there are image. So if we wanted to, we could write we could use ChatGPT to write a Python program that took a bunch of image files and captions and burn the captions onto the image as a way of processing it. I've kind of, and with the Pretty Pictures with Pete production stuff, I'm kind of like halfway there. Not because that's where I was going, but so this is an image directory, and then next door to it is a descriptions directory. So these are all essentially the captions that go along with, each of these is a caption for one of the images over here. And it would be pretty easy to, well, so the question is, how would you like caption this, like burn this into the image? It would ruin the image because there's too much text here. So you could have shorter ones and burn them in or whatever. One more quick thing. I haven't talked about a lot because I don't want people to think it's a necessary part of the Markdown ecosystem I use, but even for Gumroad, I've started a thing where I actually write I do the description stuff in Typora, actually. And I do that for each image, kind of like this. And then I drag this whole thing over to Gumroad, and then I drag and drop the images into Gumroad. That same workflow would work with Ghost. It would probably work with Substack too. So the reason I ended up doing this is because it took me a little while to get used to the Gumroad way that you edit. I was going back and forth between the email editing thing and some other part of the interface, and if you're not careful and if you don't hit save, it actually like deletes your email. So I came to this. It's actually kind of nice. This is it's not a web app. It's it's a Mac app. So it's a little bit safer and easier and stuff if I set it up here. So then Typora is a Markdown editor, but it's also really good at cooperating. It's really good at cooperating with the other high functioning editors like Substack and Ghost. So you can kind of go back and forth between them pretty easily with a drag and drop or copy paste, I guess.
So what's the next step then for Claire if she wants to at least try something that works on Mighty Networks?
Yep. Awesome question. Thanks, RJ. I think, Claire, what do you think? That shared art journal, does that sound fun? And if you set up a post there and then we're able to share a link to that post into Mighty Networks, does that get your itch scratched?
Absolutely.
So my suggested next step is actually for me and Claire and whoever's interested to set up a shared art journal.
Let's do it.
Shared Ghost or Substack or maybe Gumroad. If we ever want to talk about putting text on images, there's cool ways to do that. So we kind of hit that and we haven't gone into it, but if we ever wanted to, we could. Cool, that was fun and totally blew my agenda, which is what I wanted. But okay, let's pop
Just
up
think
our
of me
air
as a
real quick.
jankifier.
Thanks, Claire.
You're welcome.
I like that a lot. Okay, so we started at 7:30, right? So the other things I wanted to talk about real quick about video production and post-production. I thought more about Danielle's question from yesterday. I want to go into Jenkifiers a little bit. Some of the new Jenkifiers, I want to at least do a quick show and tell with them. We didn't do that yesterday. And then we can also talk about betterification and things. We could talk a little bit about coding with LLMs. I thought more about Scott's question from yesterday and want to talk about that. And then I was thinking we might get to language model managers, but let's rework this. I'm going to change the format of this. So the idea I had was to be a little bit more organized and time box things. So let's see. And this is super confusing at this point because I originally thought this call started at 7 instead of 7:30. So I was all set to go for 7, which is a really good way to do it. Convince yourself the day before that the meeting starts a half hour earlier, and then you're gonna be sure to get ready. So let's talk about video production and post-production for 5 minutes, and then Jenkifiers for 10 minutes. And then coding with LLM for 10 minutes. And it looks like we're going to run over, if that's okay. Don't feel like you have to stay, but we might keep going. So we talked yesterday about a little bit about video production and post-production. John is happy to host questions and conversations about that in the Guild. And it doesn't have to be about AI. So that was the thing that I clarified with him. Just production stuff. So Danielle had the question yesterday. I want to record a screencast of myself. I want to record a screencast with that picture of me on it. And it's super funny. Yesterday, we it was like I got around to being I don't know, frustrated with OBS, or was like, oh, I know the answer to this is OBS, and nobody wants to do OBS. This is the kind of question that you can just go ask ChatGPT, right? So part of that is formulating the question in a reasonable way, but at some point it was like, here's what Danielle wanted to do. I also want to do portrait video, and I'm on a Mac, and what should I use? Super funny to me that its first answer is OBS. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I've done a pass through a bunch of these tools at some point, like a year ago or something like that. So I kind of remember ScreenFlow and Camtasia. I know Camtasia is expensive, ScreenFlow is expensive. You can do it super cheap you can do it super cheap, or you can do it, these are like 150, 200 bucks. If you're serious about it, you bite the bullet and do it. And then, I don't know, we could talk about ScreenFlow or Camtasia or something else. But anyway, I don't mean for this to be the end all answer, but this is the kind of thing that we can go over to Video with John now and say, hey, I hate OBS, Camtasia is too expensive. What else could I do? Danielle.
Are there any built-in apps that you could use for free for a Mac that you can get from the App Store?
QuickTime Player.
Okay, would that suffice? Then would that be like, I want to be in that circle. I see people, I think that looks really smooth and clean, and you know what I mean? I want to know what people are using, and I don't say OBS. I don't want to.
No, they're using something like ScreenFlow or Camtasia. Camtasia is Windows and Mac. ScreenFlow is only Mac. I'm sure there's, I think on Windows you probably end up on Camtasia. On Mac you have a choice. If I think I'm remembering like doing this a year ago and deciding it anyway, you
Because
bite
you
the
can
bullet,
do
you
it on
spend 150
FaceTime.
bucks.
I'm sorry, there's a way to do it on like FaceTime where
Yeah,
you can
maybe.
share your screen on FaceTime and make yourself a circle on FaceTime, but I don't want to. How do you do that? Like, but record, you know what
So
I mean? Like, if
let's
you're,
go over and ask John or whoever is there. There's one more I want to share that I learned from somebody else in the guild, I think. It was actually Cami Esser. Shoot. Part of the reason I started making this list was because I wanted to share there's one more thing. Let me actually look in my password manager because I recently made a password for it. Hang on while I look this up. There's a cool tool. Let me not talk while I try my password. I have a long password. Shoot, I thought it was in here someplace. There's a cool tool. Okay, I'll think of it and we'll come back to it. There's a cool tool, maybe one of you know it already, that you can just throw it like a 30-minute video, a 60-minute video, whatever, and it uses AI to go through and pick out the cool clips, and it makes 30-second, minute, 2-minute clips, and it does the captions, the cool captions and stuff. I guess this isn't quite an answer to your question, Danielle, but that's another tool in your toolkit. You can actually just take a long video and get it to do these short meme, short video shorts that are awesome. It actually kind of works kind of okay and kind of not okay on a recording. So super funny. I can't remember the name of it offhand. So let's go over to video with John, Danielle, and ask all kinds of hard questions. Looking forward to it. Okay, so let's talk about Jenkifiers. We're right on time. Isn't that amazing? Let me do quick demos of Junglify, Lexi Constructor, and Chopper. I guess I've got this. Oops. Got that here. So Junglify, Lexi Constructor, and Chopper. I'll just write a quick prompt. A beautiful meadow in the summertime. This needs to be a lot longer, obviously. I wish there were a way to make random sentences. Oh, wow, there is. So this is Lexi Constructor. It came out looking prettier than the other ones, most of the other ones. I think Interleaver has got this, it's got a tiny bit of CSS that makes it look a little bit better, kind of by accident. So that little bit better, like a better font and stuff like that, is something that would be fun to talk about when we talk about betterification. So Lexi Constructor is this thing where you click the button and you get not just one set of sentences, but 10. This is for when you want to, this is actually very similar. I use a tool like this. It's written in Python, a little bit clunkier and a little bit better. It's the pro version. But I use a tool like this for a lot of my prompting. And I like to make a bunch of prompts and then copy them over real quick and let them stack up in the queue and get rendered. This scrambler, it turns out this doesn't happen with my other tool as much for different reasons, but Midjourney I found got really distracted by if the first word or two was something that it could render. I don't know that like Sagacious is probably something it wouldn't glom onto, but some of these other ones, it would glom onto the first word or two and make that and kind of ignore the rest. So I made this random fire for the first 25 characters. And each of these is actually an HTML button. So this is a button and this is a button. I played around with different ways to do it. At first, there was a separate button to copy, it copies the first one automatically. And then the other ones you have to click to get it. I had a separate button and then I realized I could just make the button super big like this. So super happy with this. So now that we've got a bigger, let me turn off the scrambler. So it's copied this without me doing anything. Let me bring this over to Junglify. You can see probably camouflage. Yeah, camouflage, poison dart, river, palm tree. And like you saw on my post in the channel, it turned a LexiConstructor random sentence into jungle stuff like really good. So then let's look at Chopper as well. So now I think this is on my clipboard, and I got super fancy with Chopper. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing, but it's got different options, and it's got 2 buttons instead of 1 button. So the idea of this is the 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. For every 5th character on this one, it takes out every 5th character. So you can see measuring, Indian, camouflage, security, poison, dark. It even cuts out spaces, which I think is a good thing. And then you could do the same thing every 4th character, every 3rd character, every character. So between me and ChatGPT, we got confused. The first button this had, it was actually backwards, and instead of cutting out every 5th character and leaving it kind of the way it was, it cut out all but every 5th character. So it cuts 4 characters instead of 1 out of 5. So this makes it really short because it's it's nuking 80% of the characters. So this is useful too. And so on and so forth. There's an interesting thing where the 2 buttons for 1 out of 2, it's the same number of characters chopped out, but it's the opposite set. It's either the even ones or the odd ones. So that's Chopper. I would love to talk about questions, how to get this text, and do we really need options, stuff like that. But so that's the new Jankifiers. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Obviously,
I think those are really cool, Pete. I really like the ones that come up with the whole random sentences for you. Like, how did you? Can I ask your method for how you did it? Just like, what was your source? Like, did you just have it like
great
use?
Question.
I'm just curious. I mean, you don't have to tell me like your secret, but I'm just curious if you like
no, this is
have it.
It's actually it's a good question, and one of the reasons I wrote LexiConstructor is because almost all of these do tweaks, either smaller or bigger tweaks on existing text, and we didn't have the only one actually that actually created text was Vicky's WikiWords. So what this does is it goes to a random Wikipedia article and grabs 2 random sentences from it. And this is I like this one a lot. And sometimes it's actually good to have real sentences rather than random sentences. But we only had this one thing. So every time, like Chopper, I was looking for stuff to chop. And so I was using WikiWords, which works really well. I really like it. So so then I've had my own version of LexiConstructor for a long time. And when we first started doing Jankifiers, I knew that I needed to port that over. The way, actually, let me show you, I guess, first. I didn't know what ChatGPT was going to think about this. So I had a word list. I had 5,000 words, and I didn't know how it was going to handle it. But you just start. So I went over to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, ChatGPT, I've got 5,000 words. I need you to randomize and create sentences with." So it came up with this way of doing it. I thought it would need to do something fancier, but this is actually really good. It put these one per line, and so the thing was really, really, really long. I've put it on multiple lines, and then I had to change the code a tiny bit to make that work. But so the pretty much, if you want, you can do something like this, basically. If you say, name of language and word list, you find all kinds of words. The one that I ended up with was something called the Oxford 5000. And the one I was using for my tool is actually this GitHub thing. JNoodle, whoever that is, has got a set of, these are different word lists. Opal is actually from Oxford too. There's a weird thing where Oxford sells these lists, sells dictionaries with these lists. And I don't think they've actually copyrighted the list itself, but I also kind of felt a little bit weird about it. So I also found, poking around, I found some more. There's one that's specifically public domain, and so I kind of mixed and matched a little bit and got something that I felt like it wasn't stealing too much from Oxford. And the big pain actually was having a few words in here that when you give them to Midjourney makes a banned prompt. And like we've said, that can be scary. So I had to take out some words, even from the Oxford 5000. There were a few words I took out, and then I did some other sorting and sifting. One of the things in my download folder right now is I thought it would be really clever and pre anti-swear word, the word list. So I downloaded somebody's got a YouTube blacklist, words, all the words and phrases you can't use on YouTube. You do not want to see this. But so I looked at it and then didn't look at it, and then I did some Unix tools to make sure that I didn't have any of those in my list and things like that. So I was super excited, and I even thought about how to do it, and I really wanted to put take this randomized button and put one in French and German and Italian and Japanese and whatever. And then I'm thinking through it. I started finding French or German word lists. I don't know what are the swear words in other languages, right? So and sometimes you find you don't find 5,000. You find the 200,000 French words was one of the things I found. 200,000 French words, and they're in order of frequency. So you can take the top, 5,000 or whatever. But I don't know what's in there. I don't know if it's safe or not. So I blew off the idea of doing it in separate languages. Made me sad, but someday we'll find somebody that can anti-swear other languages, and then we can put them. So thanks for your question, Daniel.
I have another question.
Go for it.
Okay, so does that use most commonly used words? Is that what your Jacobfire does? What if you made one that uses the least, what are the least commonly used words in like the English language, and then also extract, like, of course, the obscene ones?
Or not, depending.
Or not. Well, I mean, because ChatGPT doesn't punish you like Midjourney does when you put like prompts in.
Really?
It just tells you, I can't use that, and then you could
Yeah.
try again.
It makes sense. Midjourney Midjourney generations kind of go into their public stream, and so they don't want to. ChatGPT is just talking to you. It's like, okay, dude, whatever. I'm just not going to do it. You could totally do whatever you want with the word list. And
Because less common words would be like more. Because
more
when
janky.
you use ChatGPT, yeah, I think it would, because when you use ChatGPT, you always get the same words, and when you hear Kyle talking about it on his stream, in the evenings about these same words that it always uses, and so maybe if the least commonly used adjectives and verbs in the English language, or maybe even Old English words.
Yep.
I don't know. An idea.
I've kind of got that with my other tool. I've kind of got that a little bit. It's Guts, or the first version I had before I found the Oxford list. The version I had before that was I think it was Unix. There's a Unix word list. It's this is most popular. This word file here, userdict words. It is not a actually, let's look at this later. It has all kinds of pointless words. The least commonly used words are least commonly used for a good reason. But anyway, it's a great idea. So there's two things we could do, two things one of us could do, some of us could do. This is open source. Danielle, you can totally download this, and if you just swap out the word list, you can generate whatever, from whatever word list you want, and then make your own version. A cooler thing to do kind of would be to add another button that that generates out of like just put multiple word lists in Lexiconstructor itself.
I can't do that by myself yet, Pete. I'm not that savvy. That's okay.
You want to do it together? I could do it by myself, but I don't know if that will
Well,
be
I
fun or not.
mean, I don't want to take everyone's time, but
you want to do that?
If anyone has any complaints, otherwise I'm totally game unless anyone has any complaints about it.
I'm thinking we should do that as a separate project and come back to the team with it.
Sounds good.
Would you be up for that?
That's fine. Sounds good.
Okay.
Pete, can I ask a question? Do you normally, whenever you make one of these things, do you see what the results look like in the tokenizer that you were sharing once? Because I would think each one would have a different effect in the tokenizer, and at least it would give you some insights as to what it's doing with your code's result. Because it's going to try to map anything that you input into tokens and words and tokens that's in its vocabulary. And if it's not, it's just going to get a word, it'll get assigned to a generic token, which essentially makes it sort of meaningless. You know what I mean?
Yes, I totally do. I think tokens is kind of the tokens is a good concept for tokens and words are actually pretty similar. So and a little bit lower level than tokens don't have semantic meaning very much. I mean, they have a little bit of semantic meaning. The place where the interesting things happens is more at the semantic level. So so let's take LexiConstructor. I kind of wish there was a button that scrambled the first 25 characters of the existing things. But anyway, let's take this. Maybe this is a good example. So this is just a bunch of random words, right? There's no meaning to this. And let's give it to Midjourney and see what it thinks. And then let me also make sure probably my chaos is low. Otherwise, otherwise you get chaos. Which is what I prefer, but and let me do another one of those and make it fast because we want to see it. And so we won't wait for it. Let's scroll through some of the ones that I've got already. By the way, I have to say, pick a film type and a year, and you get like gorgeous images from Midjourney at least. It was so funny. I picked this up from somebody, Kodak Ultramax 400, which was a very classic film from Kodak. And then I was doing, I forget what I was doing, 1975, Kodak Ultramax or something like that. And I was getting good images. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to plus that up and get to 1968 Kodak Ultramax. And it kind of started doing cameras rather than pictures. And I think maybe the problem is Kodak Ultramax didn't exist until like 1990 something or something like that. So then I had to go ask ChatGPT, dude, what's some film that existed in 1968? And my choice was Kodachrome X. So anyway, sorry to get distracted by. For a short time there, this was like late at night last night, and I'm like, wanted to tell my wife, dude, I'm playing with different film types, and then I'm like, Pete, you're not playing with different film types. You're playing with, a poor simulation of real film and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, for a short time, I was imagining I was actually like doing real photography with a real film. It felt really good. So this is a good example. These are actually, this is first 25 characters random. So back to your question, RJ, what does this mean to Midjourney? And it's not at the token level that it's meaning. What it does is it looks through this. It looks through this and it tries to make something that's got some relationship to the words, right? So for our purposes in thinking through what's happening, it's okay to talk about words instead of tokens. So so this is the ones where I've tricked it with the beginning thing. Let me scroll to one that has, here's a great example. This is I hope you can kind of see this. This is a LexiConstructor fake sentence. Obesity, fibrous, criminal, compelling, estate, writer, overturns, lobby, peers. This has got the essifier, and it's the ES version of essifier. So each of those words has ES at the end of it, which confuses things a little bit, jankifies things a little bit, but you can tell not enough. So the first word here is obesity, obesities, and it makes an obese guy. Here's another one. This one scared the heck out of me, man, I have to say. This weird face coming out of the mud. Drought is the first word here. And even though it's jankified a little bit, it's like, yeah, I think you want drought pictures. So really simple-mindedly, it notices some words in the prompt and gives you that. So these are also chaos 50. So these other images, it's actually interesting. These are so much the same, even with chaos 50. My hope, and this is where we can get to the point where I don't know really, but my hope is that, if you put drought and then you put sudden, most, twofold, whatever, sudden, most, twofold, whatever is going to have it come up with different ideas than if these were other words. So my whole point in making random sentences is hopefully it picks up some weights from, from different things. So another thing is, if we give it a well-formed prompt, a pleasant summer day in the meadow, you kind of know what it's like. This is we're not in the zone of pushing it to be creative. This is where it's been trained on a billion images or a trillion images, each with a caption like this. And so when I say a pleasant summer day in the meadow, it does tokenize this, but the tokens don't really matter. Think of it as a word still. It does turn this into words. It may even kind of understand sentences. So if I say a pleasant summer day in the meadow versus, let's try this experiment. I don't want to lose my place here, so I'm going to try this experiment up here. Let's jumble this totally up. Maybe sort it alphabetically. I guess that's pretty close. So this is less grammatically correct, but I think it's probably not going to care too much with the transforms or whatever. It's probably, a day in meadow, pleasant summer, is probably pretty close to a pleasant summer day in the meadow. And that's probably also pretty close to if you change pleasant to be nice, or you change summer to be, summer is probably going to stick pretty good. If you change this to spring or autumn, you'd get different kinds of pictures, right? So what it's doing is, in the billions of images that it's thought about, it looks for similarities, similar kinds of sentences, similar kinds of meaning, right? And gives you pictures like that. I think if chaos was lower on this, let's try this prompt with a lower chaos too. And this might be a good comparison, just reordering the words a little bit. Do we get, what do we get different? A couple other things going on with Midjourney, just from watching it do a bunch of images in version 6. Version 6 is kind of thoughtful about, how can I make this look different? So this one is a nice painting. It's got great brushstrokes and stuff like that. This one is more photographic, but it's got an interesting, this actually looks like film, kind of. It's desaturated a little bit. It's not very bright. This one's got like a sepia cast to it. And this one's super bright. So it kind of, version 6 especially, knows to think about the subject and then think about some good ways to present it, and then kind of vary those and give me a nice selection of them. Version 5.2, it would be less thoughtful about styles, I think. So this is another painting one. And this is kind of the same kind of painting. That's a nice photograph, and it's kind of macro. This is like a landscape one. It would be interesting to do like a couple hundred generations with this one versus a couple hundred generations with this one, and see if these are actually, these kind of feel different to me. These 4 versus these 4 kind of feel different. It would be interesting to see if that's just random or not. Let's look at this one. So utterance isn't a word that it can really think of as, it's not like saying flower or obese or something like that. I don't know how it got elks or deers out of this, but it really wants to do deer. This is why you put chaos. Let me grab this and put it up here. So there you go, right there. So, so it tells us a lot. We could do some cool science experiments, RJ and I probably. We could do some cool science experiments, like why did it pick out of, why did it get all the way? It didn't pick parasite or float or something. It picked deer, and it did it very consistently. Why didn't it pick mackerel? why didn't it pick fashion? Fashion is kind of a more interesting word, right? I don't know. And I think another interesting experiment would be to put like a real sentence, like a beautiful summer day in the meadow, put that, close to the front, in the middle, towards the end, see if it gets attracted to actual language rather than just random words. Bunch of things you could try. And I actually do that a little bit. I do some of that. Mostly I throw junk at it. I have to say I've gotten like literally kind of depressed with I did a lot of playing around with LexiConstructor because the framework is good. The framework is really solid, and I kept making it better and stuff. But let's scroll past the awesome film. The film made me happy, I have to say. It would be cool to be able to bookmark your bookmark sections of your Midjourney stuff. William Morris wallpaper, that also made me happy too, even though it's not very great.
You can't put them in folders or anything?
You
Pete,
totally
or
can. The
oh,
folder,
okay.
there is a folder thing. It's not very, it would take a long time. It would take a long time. Good question. What the wish I have right now is just bookmarking. Because
Couldn't you
where
bookmark them in your like in a tab on your and then go back to them that way? You could. Like maybe with like a link.
yeah, I could. Yeah. I like that.
That's an
That's a good
idea.
idea. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't use Midjourney. I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, thanks.
It
Those are
might
good
work
ideas.
if you have the.
Yeah. Let me use the create interface, and thankfully so the LexiConstructor sentences, the random words, the pro version I have works better. The pro version does some different things to the prompt. I'm saving the pro version for my Midjourney class, which is why I'm not sharing it. But LexiConstructor is still super useful because it gives you like, we have a bunch of the Jenkifiers that like Chopper, like just makes things shorter. A lot of these work on words. They put, or even Catifier, Frogifier, Junglify. If you don't have any words, it doesn't do anything. So you need, 10 words or something like that before you start getting interesting stuff happening. And LexiConstructor is awesome for that. It's also awesome for things like reverse text or sorter or things like that. By themselves, they're kind of depressing. You get lots of monsters, you get lots of same things, these weird people things. Some of these macros are good, but some of them are kind of weird. I don't know. They're just not very. They're kind of icky in general. Or a whole section will turn into women or something like that. These guys, I actually kind of like them, even though they kind of freak me out. But they're next to like this one. Ugh. I don't know why these people are, or why the women are dressed in their underwear, but whatever. So I don't know. It's really interesting. LexiConstructor's sentences, just the sentences, or just the random things, they're kind of icky. They don't work. These are StyleRefs. StyleRef is awesome still, but these are actually, this is probably LexiConstructor sentences turned backwards or something like that. Anyway, these are cool, even though they're kind of scary. So let's get back to And how are we doing on time? Jankifier is just taking over like they do, which is probably okay. So Cindy's got the idea to do Francofier, which I think is a good one. She's actually got the code in her comment. She couldn't figure out how to get it out of ChatGPT or whatever. So somebody, it could be me, should grab this and turn it into an HTML file. Let's just do that real quick, actually. So let's do our Zen thing and get into Jankifier mode. So we've got text on the clipboard. What do we want to do with it? We want to create a new text file, and for that we use TextEdit or Notepad. Make a new thing. Make sure it's not rich text. Paste it, and then it turns out probably all we need to do is delete this and delete this. That happened
Wait,
because
Pete, can you tell us what you deleted, please? Can you tell us what you deleted? I want to know.
Yeah,
I want to learn. I'm trying to zoom in and I can't see.
Let's make it bigger. Let me paste the whole thing again. The thing to do at this point is actually, and probably there's a little bit of copy paste jankiness that happened when Cindy copied this and then pasted it into Midjourney and stuff like that. We lost a bunch of line breaks. So what happened here, she was probably using ChatGPT and I guess there's
Oh, sorry.
a pro tip for if you're not a hardcore coder like me or RJ. A thing you will probably want to do is don't try to adjust it. Try to just reprompt it. Take the whole prompt and start a whole new project. Otherwise, ChatGPT can get a little confused. So in the background, what ChatGPT does when you say, now change it to do blah, it actually writes a little Python script for itself and runs the Python script. And then this is actually Python right here, this part and this part. And I only know that because I'm a Python programmer. So good news, Danielle, is you can delete this. The bad news is I don't know that you would know what to delete. Although actually, I'll let
Did
you
you
ask your
recognize
question.
that
Then I do
because,
have a.
sorry, did you recognize that because like the triple quotes right there? Is that how you knew that that was Python separating it?
It's a good question. That's one way to notice. Another way to notice is this updated I don't even know, like without even thinking about it as programming language, this is what programming is. It's variable names and equal signs. So you can just tell that this came out without, I think what that's, thinking through it, just looking at that, it's like, oh yeah, this is code, and there's HTML buried in the code. This triple quote thing is a pretty good marker for, it uses, this whole thing is one string in a triple quote thing, and it has to use triple quotes because there's single quotes in here. A different better way, different rule is to look for, this is something that you'll learn to recognize after a while, this doc type HTML. And that's even in the Jankifier best practices, whatever. I went real quick on this. The Jankifier, so to get to the knowledge base for Jankifiers and to get to the Jankifiers itself, you go to this website, as we know and love. I'm actually going to put the main website, right? You go to the main website, which is like that. And then over here in the quick navigation, there's Jankifiers. Let me know, by the way, I would love to have comments. Pete, I always find this cool thing in your website, but I can't figure out how to find it permanently. Could you put it on the nav? We need a little bit more nav here. WIP stands for work in progress. These are actually pretty janky pages right now. Anyway, so you click on Jankifiers. One of the things in here is a link to the Jankifier publishing checklist. So this is the thing that you check. This is the publishing instructions and all the publishing gory details. You don't need this to just use a Jankifier, but you kind of need to do a good chunk of this when you're publishing it. So anyway, right there, doc type HTML is the first line. So you can kind of go, I don't know what this crap is, but it goes. And then the opposite version of that is /HTML. So if you look at another Jankifier, and remember that we can do that by picking our favorite one, looking at it and doing view source. They all start with doc type HTML and they all end with /HTML after /body and this copyright thing. So the way to look at this is look for the HTML and instead of trying to figure out whatever the coding stuff is. So interestingly enough, even though this doesn't have the right line breaks, HTML doesn't care. So I could save this. Let me make sure I get the name right. And luckily, it's kind of already set up to save in the Jankifier part of my computer. I don't know why I can't double click that. I'm going to restart Notepad because I think it's broken. Sorry, text edit.
I wish I could do that with my own brain. Just hit restart when it's broken.
I know, right? That would be awesome. Okay, so let's find it again. Copy this, paste this, look for the HTML, which I know starts with doc type and ends with /HTML angle bracket. Okay. So save. Yay. Okay. Shoot, I had Francophire on the. So do we want it in text mode or HTML mode? I think I don't need to do any editing. I actually want to test the HTML. So let's save that. Yes, I do want to do HTML. Thank you very much. And now I need to find that in my, find that on my computer. I'm going to cheat and go to here. Out of all the ways I could cheat, this is, well, anyway. Okay, so here's Francophire. I'll bet it works. Let's use Vicky's WikiWords thing. And they didn't stomp on Francophire. Yeah, there it is there. Okay. Francify. Okay, so something's broken. This is where I don't know. This happens. About like 40% of coding is just not stopping. Kind of like RJ. It's like, I wonder what's wrong. Instead of going, it's broken. I'm never gonna fix it. 40% of it is just persistence. Since this could happen to you, let's think about, or let's do a little bit more on debugging. So if I didn't know how to code and I didn't know how to debug and stuff like that, what I would do is go here, copy these out, and then go to ChatGPT and ask it to, hey, ChatGPT, use the standard Jankifier prompt. And then I would give it these words, I want these words, right? Something like that. And just have it rewrite the whole thing. That would be totally fine. Another thing, this actually looks a lot like Catify and Frogify and Raccoonify and stuff like that. This is probably actually a hack of Raccoonify, now that I think about it. So a different way to do it is to go over to one of those and copy the known good version of it, replace all the raccoon words with hot dog words. That would be a good way to do it. Let's do a tiny bit of debugging here. So there's different ways to get to this, and depends a little bit on your browser, but one way to get to it is View Developer JavaScript Console. And let me refresh this. When you turn on the JavaScript console, and sometimes it can go on the side and sometimes it can go on the bottom. There's a way to change that, and I forget how, but what it does is it prints the error messages for you, basically. And so you can see this looks like a syntax error. So it looks like I don't think there's a weird thing where I guess I can click here and actually look at it. So the problem is we don't have the right number of, something got lost here, basically. And it's probably like a double quote or, oh, that's the whole string. So something's not working. You know, another novice friendly or non-expert friendly trick you could use is W3C. W3C validator. W3C is the standards body for all the web stuff, and you can actually give it, it cares about HTML, it doesn't care about JavaScript so much, but yeah, so it's great. The HTML is perfect. It skipped over the JavaScript. Chrome thinks there's some problem with the JavaScript that we have to figure out. Not that you have to do any of that debugging, but we can go back and explore some of that sometime for anybody who's interested. I think my approach would actually be just to take Raccoonify and replace it, and then change some of the names and stuff like that. Or
And you could also give it to Claude and say, you know, debug it or tell me how it works and maybe if
Yeah.
there's any problems with it.
I'm not quite Claude proficient yet, but let's try the same thing with there's a question. I have a question for myself. Pete, do you want to paste this or do you want to wow.
Upload it.
So maybe even better, I could have just said fix it instead of what's the problem. Okay, so we've learned that we could click copy and paste it into TextEd and stuff like that. We also know this works. Although, yeah. I've gotten this error like a couple times. I don't know exactly why it decides I can't do it, but for the sake of time, let's do it the hard way. Okay, so now I should be able to just go back here, load this, and now we don't get that syntax error, which is awesome. And now we need our WikiWords thing. and Frankenfire. Gotta generate that one. Okay, so I've got since this is in Obsidian, I've got some other, we've talked about a few of these. I've got some in the queue. Some of these are actually decent Jenkifiers. They haven't gone through the publishing process yet, but we'll do that. Let's do the publishing process for Frankifier real quick. I know that we're past time and past double time or something like that, but so we'll do that and then we'll quit. And I'm going to use my editor, the editor I like, instead of TextEdit. You could do this with 2 TextEdit windows. Oh, I've got it right there. So I take a known good one, interleaver is a good one, and then Frankifier. I'm using Emacs because it works with both of them at the same time in one window, kind of, which is so if I were doing this in TextEdit, I would do the same thing. Bring up TextEdit and 2 panes. So and then in actually a third window, what you would do is bring up the publishing guidelines or whatever publishing stuff checklist. So it's got doc type at the front, and then I need this thing here, right there. Make sure to change the name. These are links to the website version and the GitHub version of the page. So this is actually right, even though it has Peter Kaminsky in it. I'm hosting these, so that's cool. Add a version number. Someday we should talk about why I think version numbers are important. I actually hate the fact that they're so junky looking, but there's a reason that particular format. I'm using that particular format and stuff, so I don't know. Let's switch to, instead of interleaver, let's look at LexiConstructor because it's got a new feature. I know that yield is right towards the end of that long word thing. So I don't know why my syntax calling broke, but whatever. Pro tip, by the way, RJ had a good tip. If you use Notepad++ on Windows, maybe there's, I could come up with a similar thing for Mac. It will actually turn, even this, I guess it's doing syntax calling. Kids today, I grew up, when I started coding, we had to walk uphill both ways, miles in the snow. We didn't have colors on our monitors, so syntax calling wasn't a thing. So I don't use syntax calling. I put that, since I'm yammering, I also put this in the wrong place. This goes down here. Anyway, syntax coloring is super helpful when you're doing stuff with like HTML or code. Syntax coloring probably would have helped us see where that missing bracket was. Okay, so then the last thing we need is this footer down here. So now let's load the publishable version of Frankenfire. All we have to do is reload. By Cindy Kuhn, copyright Peter Kaminsky. So there's a bug. Can't see my, there it is there. Yay, Cindy Coon, and then there's a third place, Cindy Coon. Okay, so this looks good to go. We could check it against the checklist. I won't. Let me publish that. If I go to Obsidian, click the plus, add Frankifier. Click this and then that. It's going to get built on the web within a minute. There was one. There you go. So pro tip, if you get a probably against our community standards warning, don't mess around with it. I'm not going to try to fix this and send it. I think it's this one here. I think it's the name of the band. Which is super funny with wieners and sausages and frankfurters. So I wish that worked, but so it's tempting for me to like delete this or change it to something else. But I'm gonna have to like get over my PTSD from being banned for 3 minutes. It was horrible. Okay, so there was one last thing I wanted to talk about, even though I said we weren't going to talk anymore. Let's see if I can remember it real quick. We got some cool next steps with Danielle and Claire. Jankifiers, identification. Oh, because of the way we came up with Jankifiers and stuff like that. One of the things that we've done a lot with is that give me the atmosphere, give me a jungle atmosphere or a cat atmosphere or a frog atmosphere or a raccoon atmosphere or now a, oh, I didn't put Frankifiers in this list. I need to still. All of them are kind of the same to me, and I kind of wonder if I was thinking we could make one big one that has all of those, and I was thinking to call it Atmosphera because it has they're all making some atmosphere around a certain kind of thing. Maybe we can talk more about that another time, but I wonder what people would feel about that, because on the one hand, it'd be cool if you could kind of just pick the atmosphere. On the other hand, it's kind of cool that they're separate and you don't have to think about, like if you want to raccoonify, maybe you don't want to think about frankifying. I don't know. Anyway.
Are
So there you
people
go.
are people using these more than once? And what's their use case?
I know I am. But and you probably know my use case. I'm trying to come up with all kinds of things to generate on Midjourney, and so randomized prompts and generated prompts and stuff like that is part of my toolkit. I think a few other people are too, probably. Danielle, how about you?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Sorry.
You're still here. It's way past time.
I know. I was checking an email and I got so distracted. I apologize. I have a lot on my plate at the moment and I missed the question. Please forgive me.
We were just, RJ was wondering, he asked her very politely. He didn't say, Pete, why the heck are we still talking about Jankifiers?
I like Jankifiers.
I don't think that's what he meant. He was wondering, are there people who actually use a Jankifier more than once? And should we keep talking about Jankifiers?
I honestly really like them because they give me cool images. Even though I don't use Midjourney, I find it hard sometimes to come up with, even though I use ChatGPT to create my prompts anyway, I like it when I get surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the fun of it. And so these Jankifiers do that. And so that's why I like them. I like new ones. I like I like them. So
Thanks, Danielle. Claire, I don't know if you're still around, but that question might work for you too. Do you actually use Jankifiers, and are they useful for you? And maybe she's not around.
oh shoot.
I couldn't find my unmute button, sorry. Um, I haven't used them very much, but I find myself using them more and more. So I don't know what the future holds.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not happy with the Jankifiers. I mean, I like the Jankifiers we've got. I use a couple of them a lot. I don't use most of them, but I also like LexiConstructor is another step in having more of what I need from Jankifier. So I think I'm going to keep going. And I think so, RJ. I think the short answer for me, I guess, is at some point, you generate all the things that you can think of with your image generator, and then you go, okay, well, I know how to, and I'm out of ideas. And then you go over to ChatGPT or whatever, Claude or whatever, and you come up with all the ways to ask it for prompts. And then at some point you run out of those, and then you need more, right? So Jankifier is a way to kind of mix it up, be playful, have weird ideas, get some weird stuff going when you get depressed, things like that. Danielle?
Okay, I have an idea. So a way that I feel that people would be more likely to use the Jankifiers and is by having them set up differently. You know how you have them listed, just okay, here's a list with the link. Okay, if there were some kind of a button that had like a visual, some type of a little image that people could, because I'm visual, a lot of us are visual and they
Yeah.
associate like an image with like, oh, that's the one I like, you know what I mean? Or I feel like that like a button associated with that link for that specific Jankifier might be beneficial for people. And I feel for myself, I feel like, oh, that's where I go, because that's my Chrome extension. That's my, you know what I mean? If they have
Yep.
a visual, does that make sense?
Makes a ton of sense. A Jankifier gallery.
Yeah,
I
like if it
agree.
was
Same
just,
way.
who agrees with me? Oh, it's Irene, she unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I feel like if there was just a page of like buttons, okay, like okay, so the Frogifier, obviously you put a frog on it. You know what I mean? Oh, that's the one that makes the dumb frog images. Okay, so or the one that zippers them together, whatever. What one is that? And have a zipper.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you know what I mean? I
Yep.
feel like
That's
that would
brilliant.
really help.
Let's do it. We'll do that in another call. We'll make that page.
You can just all like submit like little images and like here, boom, put that on a button. I'm serious. I just think, I know it's a lot
No,
of,
you're
it sounds
totally
like a
right.
lot of work, but I think that would really help people be like, oh, okay, well, that's the one I want to use for my prompt to, and then let's boom there. Because
Yeah.
when you see a bunch of links, it's really like, oh, what the hell? I'm sorry, what do I do with
Really
all
intimidating.
this?
Yep.
Yeah, just an
And
idea.
not very useful. No, it's a good idea. So Rena, did you want to say something or?
I think I was just agreeing because I'm thinking, like even on our phones, we have the icon for everything that we use, and you kind of get used to, or even when I'm using DALL-E out of Chat GPT, like I'm just looking for that little icon, right? I'm very visual, and so and too many letters start overwhelming me if it's just written letters.
Yep.
It's not that I can't read it, it's just that it's like, oh well, that's way too much.
Yep. I will add that to the Betterfication product, and then we'll do it
Okay.
too. That's a good one.
I think I'm a little bit of a genius right now. I'm
Yeah,
just
you are.
joking. I'm
It's
just
a
joking.
genius level
You're
idea.
always
Yeah.
a genius.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just like bringing over what we already do with everything else, just to this. So,
Well, and you're going to
Um,
always be a teacher and you're thinking, hey, some people, you know,
Not
identify
anymore.
these things in a different way than Pete's using. And hey, maybe this would be helpful to other people, right?
Yeah. I really think that
um,
having little pictures to identify, because that way, you mean you have to read through and there's like all these little lines and, you know, dots.
And I'm sure
and
Danielle is also volunteering to help with the creation of those, Pete. I'm
I
sure
would
she is.
gladly create little images to go along with anything, but Danielle is not a pro at creating these yet. She still needs to be babysat. And
Danielle, haven't you heard? We're all programmers, we're all artists.
it's true.
We do all those things.
as long as Danielle is walked through by Professor Kaminsky here, she can do it.
Um,
But
so I've added it to the Betterfication project page. This would be a fun thing to do. It would be a fun thing to do.
I
Could it
agree.
also have like before after pictures? So, you know, you take your original prompt and show an
Yeah.
example of what the picture would have been and minimize the chaos or whatever that's going to be doing a lot of, you know, mysterious things. And then have an typical after picture.
Yep.
So people can see, oh, okay, this is a tool that I could use to change and get this kind of effect, almost like a filter sort of, or something like that.
Like it opens up
Uh,
to a landing page for that with the when you click on the link, RJ, is that what you're suggesting?
No,
Like
no,
it
what I
shows it
mean,
before and after.
no, what I
When
mean
you,
is like somebody's trying to decide which Jankifier to use. What they want to know what is it going to do? So
right,
what it'll have is like you'll have a link for the Jankifier, and
right,
before you'll have like some example before after effects
right. That sounds
pictures. So
good.
you'll have a picture that shows uh, a, a particular prompt, and then you'll show a
Examples.
picture that shows um,
The same
the,
prompt.
you know, the prompt that's the result of the picture that resulted from it being the prompt being Jankified.
Yeah, I think that's a good, but that's a lot of, I mean, this is all a lot of work. This is gonna be a team effort here, right? Pete's like, I'm not doing all this.
it would be a fun project. I think we would learn stuff too. I think we could, well, yeah, let's do it. It sounds like a fun project. The idea I have is to make a separate Jankifier subdomain or domain. So so for better or for worse, the AI 101 website, I don't think it quite has we can't do a great job. This is all Markdown. So we can't do a great job of making a gallery, the kind of gallery you want in Markdown. So we shouldn't use this website. We should use a different one. I don't know if it's jankify.org or jankifiers.org or whatever, or just jankifiers.something. I've got a bunch of domains, but I would put it on a whole separate thing. Cool. So real quick, it would be nice if they started to look better. It'd be nice if the early ones were rewritten a little bit so they copy to the clipboard as soon as you push the button. Some of them don't look great on mobile either. The text windows are too small and stuff like that. And I also really like this idea, something where you come to a Jankifier and there's a button somewhere here that says paste. So you could use one Jankifier, your thing is in the clipboard, and then you come here, and instead of trying to paste into here, you just click a button. That would be, it'd be nice on desktop. It'd be really nice on mobile because pasting in is kind of a pain, and just clicking a button would be a lot easier. So then you can chain them together easier. I do that a fair amount. I do like 3 Jenkifiers in a chain, and that button would help a lot. Cool, folks. Great ideas. Lots of next steps and to-dos, but I think they're awesome. Anything else? Thanks for taking the time.
Are
Thanks for
you
going
guys
over.
ever going to explore putting photographic kind of terms into the, because there's a whole lexicon of photographic terms
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
typically use when they're putting them into prompts. And they even have, like, you know, helping kind of tools where people can, you know, select which photographic terms they want to put in their prompts to get the kind of effect that they want. But I noticed that you guys, I mentioned this a long time ago, and we talked about it a long time ago, but it seems like that was never something that was pursued. But to me, that seems like it's not taking advantage of the major things that the image generators were trained on that would have a big effect, that would have
and
like the massive effect.
yeah. I'm going to write this down. That was super important with Midjourney 5.2. If you didn't put, you know, you would sprinkle in, you know, HD or film types or lens types. If you didn't sprinkle that into 5.2, you got crappy images. With 6, I barely do that, even though it made me super happy to do film last night, film types. But this is a really good idea, RJ. We should do one of those.
Yeah, I would
and
think it'd have huge effects. So if you
yeah,
want have really unusual images, you know, start to combine things that are not typically seen before in
yeah,
standard pictures.
I agree.
Yeah.
Same thing with art styles. Paul came up with the world art Jenkifiers. So kind of the same idea, actually, now I think about it. This works really well, and he's got, you know, I guess what happened was he started off with, I don't know, like this many or something, and then in one of the calls we added a bunch more. So I played around with, doing prompts, you know, adding some of this stuff in on prompts, and you get lots of cool stuff that way. So now let me go back to HackMD. I thought I was thinking of this new, but it's not a new thing. We actually have Paul's, but photographic terms is a great idea. Film stuff, lens stuff, film, lens. I used to do that a fair bit, actually, when I was doing 5.2. I would ask ChatGPT for, you know, take this prompt and add a bunch of photographic stuff to it, or create prompts with a bunch of photographic stuff in it. Thanks, folks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
We'll do it again next week.
Cool.
Danielle?
Did you see my question in the chat, Pete?
No.
Oh, I have a question, but I don't want it recorded. I don't care if people hear me. I just want to, I have a question that's like off topic about, but I don't I just don't want it recorded.
I don't know how